All right, welcome everyone as we are here for the Monday, September 30th regular meeting of Municipal Council. We're going to do the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement Statement now. As we gather, we are reminded that the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal is situated on the traditional terre of Indigenous peoples, dating back countless generations, which is rich in history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people today. As a township, we have a responsibility for the stewardship of the lands in which we live, work, and play. And today, this meeting place is still home to Indigenous people, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on and call this land home. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Deputy Mayor, you have that item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and second by Council Ward. The Municipality Council approves the agenda as presented.
Changes, errors, omissions, anything to be changed? No. All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Good. It's a little weird first time listening because it kind of echoes or it's a different sound. We'll get used to it. Thanks for your desk, Joe. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, conflict of interest, and the general nature thereof. Does anyone have a interest or delegation, or excuse me, a conflict to declare?
None by me.
Okay, moving on then to delegations and presentations, and it'll be Cynthia Durant for the leash bylaw for dogs. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Cynthia Durant. I live on Albert Street in Johnstown. Beautiful subdivision. My request is that the township pretends that they have a leash law when we all know you don't. I've spoken to a couple people here. One thinks, there is one says there isn't. And when you call bylaw to have it enforced, you're told there is no bylaw. You have a number over at the community center that is fraudulent. There is no such bylaw. So my request is to have a leash law put into place. I've provided all jurisdictions around here that all have leash laws. Even some of them have the length of the leash and even cats. So that is my request. I don't think that dogs need to be running down the streets of Johnstown and in the community park when there's a dog park. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I had forgotten to give you the 10-minute talk to say that the delegations are only allowed to be 10 minutes, but you certainly fit in well underneath the 10-minute mark. Thank you. So a couple of questions quickly to staff before I let the group ask questions to you. The sign in which is referred to, is there an issue there that needs to be corrected?
Yes. There, it was on, but it turned off. I didn't hear the echo. Through the chair, yes, we will remove the signs that refer to incorrect bylaws and anything of that nature.
And eventually, if there's changes that happen, then we can the one that's actually in effect will go onto the sign, and then if there are any future changes that this group decides to make, then we would put that up.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay. All right. That clears that up. And then I think I'll just look to the group for speakers. Does anyone care to ask questions or speak? Okay. Stephen, No, yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, to our clerk. Do we have a?
It's me that's shutting them off.
Oh, okay, could you please?
It was me that.
Yeah, okay. Could you please leave the buttons alone, Mr. Mayor? Uh, Duly chair to our clerk, do we have a bylaw now stating a dog has to be on a lead at all times?
Through the chair, technically, no. As long as the dog is under control, it does not technically need to be on a leash. If there's signs posted in township parks that indicate yes, then technically yes. Otherwise, it's under running at large if they're not on the premises. But if it's under care and control of the owner, it's not considered running at large.
Don't touch that, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so if it's under care and control, right? Without a lead. So what I'm trying to wrap my head around is I'm a hunter, I use working dogs. So when I run my beagles, obviously they're not on a lead, but I'm there with them. So is that a definition being under control?
So through the chair, running your dogs when they're at hunting purposes is very different. We have exemptions for that specifically. But if you or I are walking our dog on a street in a park that isn't signed or anywhere else in the township, and we have good recall, we have control of those animals, and we haven't had any concerns with it, that is under the control of the owner. If they're running loosey-goosey every which way, they cannot be recalled easily, then it's not under and they're considered running at large.
Thank you.
Through the mayor to, I forgot your name. My mind went back to Cynthia. Looking at the picture, is there more than just one person that you see, or is it just this person all the time, or there's two?
There's two different.
Okay. And they're just walk them or whatever they're doing there. I see in the pictures, there's no leash on them, so. Okay,
Doesn't matter because they have care and control.
okay.
So care and control is a big gray area, just saying.
And care and control is a leash.
Are there further questions?
Through the chair, through the clerk, is this an ongoing issue? Do we get a lot of calls with dogs running loose issue?
Through the chair, not to my recollection, at least over the last year or two. It's been one-offs where if they got loose, but I can count on one hand the amount. And it's been recalled fairly quickly. There's been one or two instances where there's dogs running at large, but they're not from individuals in our township, so they're considered animal control, where they've probably been dumped.
Well, I can certainly say that I've had a dog run at large for sure. Ours has escaped out of our dog pen many times. And it certainly hasn't had me there, to catch it, and other people have brought it home. But that's different than going for a walk with your dog off a leash, right? I mean, very rarely, unless it's swimming, ever have our dog off a leash, but I guess different strokes. If there are no further questions, then we'll wait to see if anybody wants to bring this back for further discussion at committee level. Did you have something that you wanted to say?
She's saying there was no calls. I quit calling 2 years ago. I could have called every week for the last 2 years, but I gave up and quit walking my dog because of those dogs. 2 years ago. Now my dog is dead and I have those dogs coming onto my property. I've had
Okay.
They haven't been recalled, like she said, like we do have a person right directly across from our house. Their dog, since we moved in 4 years ago, they were there first. And their dog never even approached me walking by their house every day, twice a day with my big Akita. And he wasn't socialized because we lived on Blue Church where there were no people. So, it is what it is. Not all dogs live in subdivisions or grow up that way. But, yeah, we had to stop because every time I would mention to these people that their dogs need to be on a leash, I would be practically attacked. The guy would charge at me, told me I was ignorant, and they called me all kinds of names, and I was just trying to protect his dog from
Really didn't want to
being
take risks.
within my space of my Akita, because there may have been a fight. I'm trying to avoid fights. Leash is the only way. If everybody's leash, you will have no issues.
And if you have a leash law, there's no gray area for your bylaw officer John to do his job.
Yeah. Because John told me to just stop wasting his time and stop calling.
John Nicholson told me you did have a leash law. So you guys don't know what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of mixed messages.
Good. Well, we'll work to clear up any mixed messaging, and if anyone on council wants to bring it back to propose a leash law and a new bylaw, then we'll leave it to the group to do that for further discussion. But I wanted to say thank you for making us aware of some inconsistencies that we certainly need to clean up. And quite frankly, I didn't realize there wasn't a leash bylaw either. I just made the assumption there
That's why I
was.
started
So
have people sign stuff.
The signs
I quit.
make it look like there's a law, because it's a dog on a leash
And
saying
you got
it
them on
must be
Safari Street, you
restrained.
got them all in the community center,
Yeah.
leash laws, but you don't have a law.
Right on Sophia Street, but yet they're allowed to walk free on Albert, so yeah, just clarity in black and white would be just so much better
Yeah.
than gray.
it's interesting.
Scott, you have your hat on.
Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate it.
Not to look at this, how long do we have to wait before we resurface it? Like if we want to bring it back, if you guys disagree, is it a month, 3 months?
Sure, I'll look to staff for the answer to that. I'm not really sure the answer to that.
Through the chair, once a delegate has brought an item forward once, they can bring it forward one more time to council.
In any limited time?
We don't have a statute of limitations regarding that.
What I usually do is leave it to the members of the table, and if one of them feels passionately about bringing it forward, or staff thinks that something needs to come forward, then we trust that one of them will. We normally have very busy, schedules. It usually takes a couple of months if something is going to happen. Yeah, that's about all that I can say. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that was my outside voice, wasn't it, boss? Sorry. All right, so how you gonna do this in 10 minutes?
I'm gonna try.
All right, I don't think it has to be in 10 minutes, CAO, but as a delegation, those, you know how it goes. So we can go back to 10F, and I think it is an item on 10F, right? Right.
Correct.
All right, so we can further discuss it there if there's a need to, but if you want to do the overview of it, then fire away.
For sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read a bit from the action item. I just won't go to any of the recommendations that are in here. We'll do that as the normal part of business. But we are required by Ontario Regulation 588-17 to have an asset management plan, and we do have to have one for 2024. So we do have one for 2020. So this is the update of that report. The key item to remember about this is it is a snapshot in time. So this covers up to December 31st, 2023. So anything that we've done in 2024 would not be reflected in this report. And it really is that snapshot in time, much like on your financial statements, the balance sheet is always at a certain period of time. That's kind of what this is. Also, we'll talk more about how the conditions were ranked and what some of those numbers mean. But the one thing to keep in mind that an asset that might be listed in good condition and in good working order may outlast its usual useful life. So I use the Ingredient Center as an example for that. It's listed in the asset management plan as in good condition, even though it's very well maintained and there's no indications that it won't last past its normal useful life. That is just the way it goes. And the same when you get into things like vehicles. They have generally a 7-year useful life. So if you're driving a truck that's 10 years old, but is still performing well and performing the duties that it needs to do, it's going to be listed as very poor condition because it's in that last 20% of its useful life. However, if it's maintained, it can be good. I think the one example that I would like to use is if you have 2 trucks, one in Cardinal and one in Spencerville, and the truck in Cardinal never leaves the town of Cardinal, and it always just stays in that town. Yet the truck in Spencerville hits every road every day. You know, both of those assets in this asset management plan will depreciate the same, although the actual use in that won't be reflective of that. So I'm going to try to take a lot of data and make it in a little bit more bite-sized chunks to digest. One of the things you'll see in here is it is going to recommend that we do a 2.7% capital levy. We currently, with our fee from the Port of Johnstown, there is a capital component, which is actually higher than 2.7%. So I would argue that we already have that in place, and we don't have to necessarily put a capital levy in place. However, it does also talk about our water and sewer rates. Water suggested increase was 5.8% and 3.8% for wastewater. We likely will take those into consideration. The rates for Spencerville and Cardinal haven't been adjusted since before COVID. So aside from the capital levy that we adjusted for Cardinal, but the actual rates have not been adjusted in those years. So they are overdue for an adjustment. So we'll reflect what's in the asset management plan when we bring that back to council at a later date to approve those rate increases. So since I know everybody follows along on their Adobe, I'll just read the page numbers that I'm going to be referring to. So the first one, if you go to page 57 of 296, you'll see a key statistics page, which is number 2, I guess, on the asset management plan. But with those key statistics, I'll just give some context as to where it relates to 2020. So in 2024, it says our replacement cost of our asset portfolio is 269 million. In 2020, that was 177.2 million. Another one would be the 15 years recommended timeline for eliminating annual infrastructure deficit. In the last asset management plan, that was 20 years. So assuming we're still maintaining at that amortization rate. The target reinvestment rate is the same. It was 2.87 in 2020 and 2.8% now. And the actual reinvestment rate in the 2024 plan is a little bit lower, 1.25% versus 1.1%. The next page I'd like to look at is page 61 of 296, just which is the recommendations where they talk about the average annual tax change. So this is where these numbers came from. So the 2.7, if we keep in mind that'll be covered by the Port of Johnstown capital contribution, and then the rate funded water and rate funded sanitary, that'll come to council at a later date with more backup around those rates. If we go to page 73 of 296, just the asset management categories that were in this, for tax funded assets, we have the road network, bridges and culverts, stormwater network, buildings and facilities, land improvements, vehicles, and machinery and equipment. This is a little bit more expanded than it was before. So in 2020, we just had to do our core assets. So that would have been the first 4 items. But now it has to include everything. So that's where the land improvements, the vehicles, the machinery and equipment, that's where those pieces come in. And here it also mentions at the bottom of the page that it is as of December 31st, 2023. So nothing else would be in there. If we quickly go to page 76, that's where it discusses the criteria and the service life remaining. So again, we've got a lot of stuff that's in that very poor, but a lot of that is just because it's hit that useful life remaining. It doesn't necessarily mean the quality of the assets is very poor. It's on a case by case basis how that would factor in. So if we go to the next page, page 77, this is what I was talking about before. We were a little bit early as far as got our phase 1 done in 2020. And then phase 4 is where we're at now, which is what this report is. And then we actually have to have another one for 2025, which we've already consulted that out to PSD. That was part of the whole package, was to get us caught up for 2024 and also compliant for 2025. So in 2025, that's where you will address, or we will address, some of those things that are in the very poor category, because it goes around a proposed level of service. So this is where we'll talk about is, you know, our roads might be in fair condition, but is that the level of service that we're proposing? Like, we don't have to have everything in very good condition. It might be perfectly acceptable to have a road in fair condition, which actually means it's in good working order and maintained regularly. So if that is where we want to be for some of these items, then that'll be reflected in the 2025 asset management plan. And also we would have to do that across all of our core and non-core assets. So it'll be a little more detailed. If we go to page 80, this is just where they got the $269 million of replacement cost. So as you see, really the water, sewer, and roads makes up a really good chunk of this. And some of the other items like machinery and equipment, vehicles, you know, those are smaller items that we can bring back into shape relatively quickly. But the road and the water and sanitary network, that is where those rate changes will come to help. So we know that we have to spend money on roads, and we know that we have to ensure that we're staying ahead of our water and sanitary network. So that could also mean bringing more users onto the system, because bringing more users onto the system then brings more money into the system, and then helps make it better for everybody that's paying a rate. So if we go to page 82, this is that overall look of the assets, and that's where you see that very poor of $56 million. It's not necessarily an indication that we have to spend $56 million to get rid of this very poor. Like, it just means that we need to pay attention to anything that's in this area. And if you go to the next page, 83, you just start to see it break down by department. So you've got your road networks and your water networks and vehicles. So if you look at vehicles and machinery and equipment, that has a lot of stuff in the red. But what also is not reflected in here is what happened in 2024, where we bought a new plow, ordered a new plow, replaced a vehicle. All those things are not reflected in here. So you'd start to see some movement in those areas. However, what I would like to point out is the stormwater network, where we did those Johnstown and Spencerville drainage projects. Now that those are complete, if you notice that one, it's very well funded and in very good condition. So we're now at the point where, as long as we keep putting money into the reserves based on the reserve policy, we'll be good when work needs to be done on the stormwater network. And even on things like the road network as well. You know, when we start to look at what the proposed level of service are, it might not be as bad of a picture as it paints on here. So the next thing I'd like to do is just kind of look at some of the assets in one by one. So if we look at the roads, if we go to page 92 of page 296, I kind of like this presentation a little bit better because it shows where we certainly have to put some work into roads as far as the paved HCB and LCB. But when you look at things like culverts, sidewalks, and streetlights, we're actually trending in not a bad direction. There's still a lot of useful life there. And even on sidewalks, even though we're at 34.7 out of 38 years, doesn't necessarily mean if the sidewalks have been kept up and are in good condition, we would likely get more than 38 years out of a sidewalk. So this was kind of where I keyed in to just kind of see, okay, you know, where are we exactly? So if we go to page 100 and look at bridges and culverts, that's where you'll see, like, when we do the Weir Road Bridge in 2024, I would expect in the 2025 asset management plan that this will be well within the bar. It will probably look more like what we have in the culverts right now, as far as to extend the useful life on those assets. So that's where I look at, and any of the graphs that are kind of like this is where we should be focusing on. So in 2024, we did focus on that bridge work, and we were fortunate enough that we had money in OSIF and the CCBF to fund that. So we actually didn't even have to come out of any levy-based money for that. So if we go to page 108 of 296, this is where we're looking at the water network. And as you can see with the work that was done in Cardinal to replace that underground infrastructure, you really see that in the water mains portion. And when you do the second portion of that, I would expect that would come back down even further. And even with the building itself, we're looking at that building as having an 85-year useful life. It's like this building that we're sitting in here, I think, is 120 years useful life that was assigned to this. So obviously we'll get a lot of use out of that. So where it might say that its condition is very poor, in actuality, it's not. Where, you know, when it starts to get into the 60% usage, that's when it should start to kind of look at how that should be tackled. And again, if we go to page 116, just looking at the sanitary component of it, you know, the sanitary building is in good shape. So is the equipment, but with some of that sanitary equipment, you'll see in the 2025 capital, when it comes forward, there's some things like the UV lights and things that are just due for replacement, which will keep this number well within scope. And then same thing with sanitary mains. You know, we know when we do road work in Cardinal specifically, that we know that sometimes going underneath, there's going to be some main work that needs to be done. But even still, we're up there, but not not terrible. And then if you go to page 126, this is probably the best representation of when you do work like those Spencerville and Johnstown drainage projects. This is kind of where it puts you kind of right in the sweet spot where you're at sort of, you got 50% of its useful life remaining, and you can start to save towards the work that needs to be done. And all of this is already outlined in our reserve policy, in our reserve bylaw. So a lot of this has already been taken into consideration, and we do save for this stuff every year. If we go to page 135, just to look at some of the non-core assets, you know, here's where we're at on the buildings and facilities. So this is where the 117 useful life for the town hall and libraries and everything. So even on the recreation side, you know, this is a more accurate reflection to the condition of the building. So even with the Spencerville Arena being older, it's kept in really good condition. So it's not, you know, it's okay in this context. And same with you know, well, basically all through our buildings, it looks pretty good. If we go to page 142, this one is just for land improvements, so fencing and everything. You know, we're on top of that, and same even with signage. I think that's one of the things that have come up in prior discussions, things like digital signage and everything. So it's like you're at that point where you can actually start to look at signage because it's starting to get up to that useful life. So then, you know, do you want to go and undertake a project to replace kind of all the signs as you come into the township? If we go to page 149, here's where we've got the vehicles and, you know, environmental services for their trucks. I mean, they're all kind of at their useful life, but however, in the environmental services budget, all of the vehicles are in good working order, so there's no need to replace them imminently. Whereas on the recreation side, even though it's not quite at 7 years, there's some ones that are skewing the number to make it the 5.8 because it's, you know, hand me down through the process of you know, port to public works to rec and all those things. So we're and with the fire department, the tanker truck that we bought a couple years ago would be reflected in this. So it's not so bad. I think in the 5-year capital plan, it was around 2028, I think, that another tanker was set to be replaced. So it you know, it keeps us in that good working order spot. If we go to page 157, you know, here is for machinery and equipment. So with public works, especially, this wouldn't have take into consideration the 2 plows that we're going to buy that would take this down. It would, and same with even the sidewalk plow, because all of that was done in 2024. So it wouldn't be reflected in here, and then it would come back down. And same with recreation for with their vehicles or machinery and equipment. So you know, it needs some work, but not terrible. I think the last thing that I wanted to talk about before I take any questions is just on page 166. That as a suggestion, the total annual capital is call it $7.5 million. So that's what we should be spending every year. We spent more in 2022 than that 7.5 we're spending 4.5 in 2024, so we're still under, but we're consistently investing more. So I think we can get there through the funding that we have available to us, that we can start to get closer to this number. And if the last page that I would talk about is page 171. And this is where they talk about the financial strategy recommendations. So increasing tax revenues by 2.6 each year for the next 15 years, solely for the purpose of phasing in full funding of the asset categories covered in this section of the asset management plan. So because our current process is to take a portion of the payment that we get from the port, we put that in capital, we deploy it right away, we're being proactive on that piece of it. Again, we allocate the CCBF and OCIF based on what projects need to be done. Not necessarily that OCIF is always going to go to bridges or anything. It's really whatever those programs can be spent on, that's what they'll be spent on based on the need of what needs to be done. And it also mentions here reallocating appropriate revenue from categories in a surplus position. So because this is a snapshot in time, it's reflecting what we spent in 2023, which was a lot on storm with the Johnstown and Spencerville drainage projects. So that's why it's funded like that. Whereas in 2024, we're obviously not doing those types of projects. And then just increasing existing and future infrastructure budgets by the applicable inflation index on an annual basis, in addition to that deficit financing. So that's a lot. I'm sure I went well over 10 minutes, and this will save me from going over all this again in number 10F.
I think that's the preference of the chair, right? We can talk now or we can talk later. It's up to you, sir. I have lots to say. Enough? Okay.
All right. Okay. So thank you. And I think as we, I've got a whole, I did it to you all day today. So, there'll be lots of discussion, I think, at 10F. So let's move it along and we'll come back and have that discussion then. All right. So number 6 is consent agenda. So items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and no longer require a further discussion and are enacted in one motion. The exception to this rule is that a member may request that one or more items be pulled for discussion and voted on separately. Councillor Martel, you have the motion for consent agenda.
Councillor Waddy Smale. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smale, that municipal council receives and approves the following consent agenda items as presented. A, regular council, August 26th. B, special council, September 9th. C, special council, September 19th. D, Port Management Committee, July the 1st, all 24, sorry. E, public meeting, zoning bylaw, housekeeping amendment, August 26th. Committee of the Whole, Community Development, September 3rd. Committee of the Whole, Administration and Operations, September 9th. James Riley DeWitt, Richard Drain, Branch 2 Inspection Report. Spencerville Pumping Station number 1, pump upgrades, and lane light pedestrian crossings.
Took me a while to figure out it's the left side. If I push the right side, I do get to shut them off. It's great. Okay, so consent agenda. Was there anyone that wanted to pull anything from the consent agenda? It's moved and seconded, but is there, everybody's had the opportunity to pull anything they wanted to pull? Sober second thoughts. All right, hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question on consent agenda. All in favor? Good. So where does that put me, clerk?
Through the chair, you are now on item 10D.
Sweet. 10D. All right. So the application for community improvement funding, 623 County Road 2, the Rustic Spoon. Councillor Martel, I believe you have that item.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smale, that municipal council remain consistent with section 6.6.1 general eligibility requirements of the financial incentive programs and 6.7.2 general process and submission requirements of bylaw 2012-4 community improvement plan for the village of Cardinal in respect to the application for community improvement program funding 623 County Road 2 Rustic Spoon.
Thank you, Councillor Martel. All right, certainly, we've had lots of discussions regarding this one. Just going to look for speakers to this one before we go further.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on this one, I still struggle with this, and I don't struggle with it. I feel bad that they didn't apply earlier on time, but before the work was done. You know, my family's a big user of the Rustic Spoon. We go there all the time. I think there'll be more opportunities for them down the road, but I'm really worried that if we do this here, that it will set a bad precedence where other companies will come out and reach out to us for money at that point. And I'm really concerned that we'll put ourselves in a bad situation by approving it now versus the next time they have something coming up, they'll be well aware of the CIPs that are out there and be able to approach us at that point in time for that funding. So that's all I have to say about it, but that's I'm pretty firm on that one though.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Any further discussion? Deputy? You don't have to if you don't want it.
I'm the opposite. I feel bad that, you know, like I said, a gentleman went and did his due diligence and all the good stuff he's done for the community, all the good stuff he's done for his restaurant opening. And just because his mind maybe was on something else, like getting his liquor license or hiring people, he loses $5,000, and it's not the end of the world, the principle of the 5,000. It's the point that we try to help people that's in need to improve their commercial buildings with this grant of 5,000 maximum. We advertise it. We don't give it. It doesn't seem like we give it away because there isn't anybody coming forward. It's not as if we're giving away $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. And I just feel that it's the opposite that Council Ward is, that we're not setting a presence. We are setting a presence. Setting the presence that we want to help small businesses in our community. And if it means giving them $5,000, and if it means that he didn't go by the rule book, and maybe that rule book should be changed, you know, with the intention that he has to apply and get the okay before he does his work. I don't know though. If I was opening up a business and I'm on the move and trying to get things going, that'd be the least on my mind is coming here to this township and saying, well, here's you know, can I start my work now after I did my application for $5,000. So I'm 100% the opposite of Mr. Ward on this, and I'm going to stick by it.
Thank you, Mayor. I side with both guys, but I believe what Steve is saying, and I think what we should do is change it and help this person out that has a business, because Cardinal doesn't have too many businesses, and if you lose one more, it just gets worse and worse. So we're here to help, and I have to agree with the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you through the chair. I can also see the Deputy Mayor's point, but I'm gonna have to lean with Chris on this one, you know. When I took this job, I had three things. One was to be transparent. The other one was, you know, to listen to what the people want. And the other one was to treat everyone the same. And the optics on this look terrible. It looks like we're doing a favor for a friend because we like his restaurant. It's just, we gotta treat everybody the same. It's unfortunate, but the guidelines are there for a reason, you know? I've got a family member that would love to sit on a committee, but she was told she can't because I'm on council, and that's just the way it is, you know? If we're gonna change the rule, let's change it for everybody, but we can't pick and choose who we apply it to and who we can't. That's just not this council.
Guess it's on me to make my comments. Yeah, I think the question is that we've been presented with is whether we follow the terms or the policy that you know of the bylaw that was written in 2012. I've heard certainly from everybody around the table that they want to change that bylaw or make changes to it so that it would reflect the ability to do this. We have a recommendation in front of us that we follow. Staff has put one in front of us that says that we follow the bylaw as it's written, and almost always I support staff. But this one, as I said, you know, at the last time, put it on me, put it on my shoulders. I'll make the decision. That's the job of me. I certainly, you know, as a small business owner, I certainly understand exactly where the deputy mayor is coming from. You know, with CIP and the incentives that are out there when you're opening a business, you're worried about so many different things. Luckily in my business, I didn't have to worry about you know, liquor licenses and staffing was easy back when I first opened. It's certainly not the case now, especially taking over an existing restaurant and trying to you know, fill the shoes and create something new. It's a difficult thing to do. But I think we've heard me say a million times at this table that I'm a policy guy too, and rules are meant to be followed. Puts me in a bit of a weird spot. But in this instance, a bylaw from 2012, I think I'm going to deviate from that and support small business. It's not, you know, as Councillor Martel said, setting, you know, precedent. Yes, absolutely, it is. It's something that would have to come in front of us again because the bylaw is still in place and written the way that it is. Any application that came forward from somebody else that wanted to apply would have to come forward, and we would have to have this discussion. Again, is it because I like the restaurant? Is it, you know, doing them a favor? No, I don't see it that way. I see it as in, you know, a rule that was there for, you know, since 2012 and probably should have been looked at long before now. On that, I think I said enough. But I will go for, and I'm going to request the recorded vote. And we'll just go by recorded vote.
Just one other point then, while we're talking along these lines, the other rule that it looks to me like we're also putting at risk is the expenses are for exterior work to be done. And then they had a section in here where they have the project tasks and expenses, the low cost and the high cost, which look to be their quoted estimates. And then they talk about here the invoices provided with the application, and it doesn't look like it's not of that $19,000. You know, I see signage and installation, and I see the electrical work for outdoor lighting as the only things on this $19,000. So that's about $6,000 or so that would actually be exterior to the building. So unless I'm reading this wrong, I think there's another thing we have to make sure we're also understanding that we're deviating from in this policy. Thank you.
So I'll look to staff for confirmation that that's Wendy's not here. So somebody's going to have to help us out with that.
Through the chair, you know, in the summary, the $4,904.20 for signage and installation would be applicable. The electrical work for outdoor lighting, the $1,163.11 would be eligible. Those are the only two items that would fit the criteria of being an exterior work. So if it was 50%, it would have to be 50% of those numbers.
Just to be clear that the interpretation were the counselor's interpretation of what the bylaw says is accurate. I don't have the bylaw in front of me. I just want to make sure that his interpretation of it is accurate, that it only covers facade and signage. Okay, all right. So can we get a new total then? As to what we're. That one I'm not willing to break before I call the question though. You can speak.
Thank you, Duly Chair. So you're saying that the painting and fixing deck outside $5,000 doesn't qualify? And the patio furniture of 4,000 doesn't qualify? Is that what we're saying for outside work? I can see the general cleaning and painting.
Through the chair, it's the following one. Those are the invoices that were provided. That was just the quote. For the invoices that were provided to us for this, it's just the $1,163.11 and $4,904.20. Those are the only two eligible costs for, as far as for painting for the front wall throughout the restaurant, and supplies for plumbing, paint, electrical, and cleaning. Those are exterior. So while you had a quote for the 14,000 to 19,000, for what he actually spent, the only ones that would be applicable are the signage and installation and the electrical work for outdoor lighting.
So just to understand, so the decking portion and the painting of the decking isn't an allowable expense. Is that what you're saying?
He didn't submit for those. So he submitted quotes, but for what the receipts totaling 19,986.42, those receipts were not in there.
No, thank you for that clarity. That helps. Okay, so where are we then with, somebody's got to help me out with the math
So
on this.
the total that I have is $6,067.30, 31 cents technically, but we're not going to split half a penny. So 50% of that would be $3,033.65.
So 3,033.65.
Correct.
Okay. So ultimately, I'm looking at the motion that's in front of us. The motion's going to fail that's in front of us. So then I'll need a mover of a new motion. Correct?
Through the chair, the current motion is on the table, so you'd either have to propose,
You can't
by the
amend
sounds
it.
of it, drastic amendments. I would not recommend it. I would
Oh.
recommend it to be voted
Fail.
one way or the other, however council may choose, and then put a new motion on the table.
Okay. And that motion would read however the person wants to put it forward.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Everybody understand where we're at then? Yes? Okay. All right. I've called recorded vote. So the first one is Councillor Martel.
Yay.
Okay, Councillor Smale,
Yay.
Councillor Ward,
Yay.
Deputy Mayor,
Nay.
and I'm a nay. However, the motion as it was written passes 3-2. Okay, now, a little twist. We're moving to pre-budget approval of a pickup truck. Counselor Smale, I believe you have that item.
Yes, thank you, your worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, that the municipal council approves the pre-budget purchase of a 2024 GMC truck from Riverside Prescott in the amount of $57,868.84, including non-rebated HST, and that the funds come from the Recreation Reserve.
All right, discussion on the pre-budget purchase of 24 truck. Does staff want to,
Through the chair, yes, I'll pass it to the facilities director, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a pre-budget approval as indicated, asset number 749 in the recreation fleet is a 2008 quad cab. That originally was transferred to our department in 2014 from the Port of Johnstown. Currently has 272,000 kilometers on it and has met its life. We basically just used it this summer for garbage pickup within the village of Cardinal and to water flowers. So we definitely have put the kilometers on it. We put over 120,000 kilometers on it since we took ownership of it in 2014. We don't see a need to put any more funding into it. Our 5-year capital plan has shown us to replace that vehicle in 2025. We've done a little bit of research on vehicles and looking for the best deal. We do have quotes from 3 companies. The financing is still high, so this would be a cash purchase. The only financing that was at 0.99% was the on a GM was the GMC Denali's, which are the high-end vehicles, which is not something that is required in our department. So that's all I have. I'm willing to answer questions if there are any. Thank you.
Before I speak, I'm going to support the motion that it's written. I'm going to make that clear. I'm just going to leave it at that. Are there questions?
Yeah, just a quick one. So this truck is still on the road and being driven today, for instance, is that right?
It's been off the road since the 30th of August. Still licensed, but it sits at the Public Works shop in Cardinal. It was utilized when we had our summer students over the summer.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that is because 120,000 kilometers in 10 years sounds like it's not that bad. So, I'm also going to approve it as the mayor echoes as well. But I do wonder if it's worth looking into, a warranty extension on it perhaps, or something like that for the, I think there usually is a 100K one option as well. Just something to look at, but, and I would support what if that was a little bit extra, that would be okay with me as well, essentially. So that's all.
I'm going to support it 100% and get that thing off the road before it hurts someone. I did see it. Is it a 2-wheel drive, Mike, or 4-wheel?
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, it's a 4-wheel drive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. To Mike, the truck that you're talking about, what's it used for other than now that you're only using it to water flowers? Like, is it in Spencerville and in Cardinal, or like?
This new one, basically what we do when we purchase new ones is I take the ownership of the new one and then mine gets passed down. So this one will act as the main truck out of the Spencerville arena. And then we still have our lead hands truck that is in good shape. And then we have 2 now that are used. We use primarily 2 a lot during the winter months and in the summer out of Cardinal. We only use the one out of Spencerville. So
So the truck you have now, is it four-wheel drive?
Yes, it is.
So do you actually need four-wheel drive? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Personally, myself, I'm on the road every day at all of our facilities throughout the year. So when the weather is bad, I feel comfortable having the four-wheel drive capability.
Okay, thank you.
All right, further discussion on the pre-budget purchase of the 24 truck. Okay, hearing and seeing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, back to the big one, 2024 asset management plan. Councillor Ward, you have that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh that Municipal Council receives and approves the 2024 Asset Management Plan as presented.
Thank you, and I will open the floor to discussion. Who wants to go first? Anyone? Anyone, or is it just going to be me?
I know you'll have lots of questions. I want to get mine in before you get to speak, sir. You know, and it's not a, before I say anything, it's not about the analysis that I have issue with, but you know, when we hear, you know, 270 million in assets, but 56 million of them in poor condition, and I'm glad for the explanation you gave me, because you know, I take that and say, man, we're in trouble. We need to find a way to solve this, but we're not operationally really seeing that. And so you know, but so we're not seeing that, I guess, is my biggest concern. And the fact is, at some point anyways, even though we're not seeing it, we have to try and sign up to getting all those things that are poor off of that, you know, off of that rating, if you will, so that we can, you know, check a box at the, I'm sure it's a provincial level that's being handed down. And so, you know, and I think we're a township that's in pretty good shape. So I struggle with knowing what some of the other, you know, towns and cities and towns in Ontario are gonna have to face to try and meet to this metric. And so, you know, so basically in saying that, you know, I really struggle with the concept that we're going to tie everybody to, you know, what at least on the surface to me appears to be an artificial marker, essentially. But so like I said, I struggle with that because, you know, while I know we should spend money, you know, if we were to spend $7.5 million every year on asset management, that's $1,000 for every person in the township every year that they have to come up with. And you know, knowing that we only get a third of the money we collect, we'd be looking at, you know, the average property tax people would be paying, which includes the education, at over $10,000 for a small house, I would think. And that's, you know, A, untenable, and B, not really that believable, like I said. So so I'm really concerned about the overall process that we're being put into here and what it's going to mean for how much we have to actually go and do. And so, you know, if you could help me make more sense of why we should feel okay with this, that'd be really appreciated.
Through the chair to Councillor Ward, the one key thing to keep in mind with this is it is a guide. And it is a snapshot in time of what the assets are. How we maintain the assets is up to us. And I think where there'll be more clarity to this is with the 2025 project when we talk about proposed levels of service, because the commitment that's being put in front of you right now, or suggested commitment, is if we want to maintain the level of service the way it is. So if we look at say, you know, some of the condition on some of the vehicles, and say, well, no, that's not a reasonable standard. You know, we should be just shooting for fair condition, not good or very good. That changes the financial commitment. And, you know, it would also mean extending the useful life out on some of these assets so that it doesn't show as an issue. It's just, I think it's well known that roads are very much a priority, and the trucks and the vehicles and the machinery and the equipment is what allows us to provide the service to the residents. So it's really no different than what current staff is doing with those assets, understanding that, you know, we have to have working plow trucks, we have to have working sidewalk plows, we have to have working equipment to deliver that level of service. It's just a way of putting that into a number.
Nope. Thank you very much for that answer. And so, you know, on that note, roads are, you know, roughly, let's say a little less than half of this overall number. And I mean, there's some roads that could need some work. And so, you know, but we look at our roads, the gravel roads seem to be for lack of a better way to say it, reasonably inexpensive to maintain. We buy gravel every year. We do some roads, and if we're buying enough gravel, which I'm assuming we are, then that one probably kind of goes away. And I'm not, you know, not concerned about that. But so the 150 kilometers of roads we have, you know, what I'd like to see on the road side is where, maybe this is where we have that conversation in 2025 is, you know, what is the real rate that a road degrades, and be able to say, okay, so let's just say for numbers sake, it's 15 years that a road is good for. Well, that sounds like we want to do 10 kilometers a year, and that should be how we budget things as far as I'm concerned. But because I don't really like the way it's being put, that, you know, we have all these bad roads where, you know, there's some roads that are bad, like I said, but generally speaking, they're in pretty good shape. There's the ones that are bad are on our list to do next year, right? So anyways, no, that's all. Like I said, I had a lot more concerns than I had questions, and I think I've got them all out now. So thank you.
Right. Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Ward, one other avenue to have these discussions is at our pre-budget in November, because then you will see a 5-year capital plan, which will include roads and everything else. And I think if you use what's in the asset management plan as a guide, then we'll see what actually is ahead of us. And then as a group can look at, say, okay, well, this is the priority work that needs to be done.
Deputy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more concerned, like the 2.6 guide is for taxes for each year. What was our tax increase last year? Can anybody tell me off the top of their head? 2 point something? 2.9? Someone help me?
Through the chair, I believe the rate that we proposed was 3%. When the county and everything got added in, I think it was a little bit higher than that. But 3% was the municipal portion.
3% was our proportion.
Correct.
So 2.6, we're not that far off. Actually, we were ahead last year of what you want every year of 2.6 increase.
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, that would assume then that all of the increase went strictly to capital.
Right.
However, some of that went to increased insurance costs, increased labor costs, and other
Right.
other items.
Okay.
But
So that 2.6, what do we need for capital? You're saying we need 2.6 just for capital,
correct.
according to this guide.
Yeah. And what we currently are putting into the capital reserve every year from our funding from the port is $240,000 a year, which would be about, you know, little over 3%. So we're already meeting that requirement.
So we're meeting that requirement. And then, of course, so we're meeting that requirement. So the 3% that we had for an increase is for operation and capital combination.
Correct. 100%.
So it's not as it's not that gloomy then. When we look at it, the 7 million, I don't like, to spend every year. Out of the, you know, we went 4.5 last year and I thought I lost a lot of sleep. I mean, if we go 7, I won't be able to sleep.
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, correct. Again, this assumes that we want to get all of the assets to that good working condition. We may not want to do that for every asset.
It's a guide.
It's a guide.
Okay, I can live with that.
Thank you through the chair. I really didn't have any questions. I was sure Councillor Ward's concerned when I saw the, you know, all the red with the very poor. So there was a little bit of concern there, but hearing the verbal report and knowing that the guide doesn't actually reflect the condition of the assets, and no, I got nothing.
Well, as for me, Mr. Dillabaugh spoke about what I was gonna talk about, but I understand it's a guide, so when November comes, we can change things and do whatever we want, so I'm pretty satisfied right now.
Well, I spent the greater part of Sean's day or the CAO's day tying him up with about 85 million questions. So okay, so I think it's been covered that the red really isn't red. It isn't like we're gonna die. It's that from a data perspective, it's hit its useful life, but it doesn't actually indicate that it's in desperate need of replacement. Quite honestly, like this building, it could be perfectly fine.
That is correct. And that was where looking at the bar graphs rather than the color coded graphs helped put that into a better representation.
Yeah, the you know, the along the horizontal ones scared the heck out of me a little bit too. So so the got so many notes here, Sean. Yeah, realistically on paper, when we look at it on paper, until you look at the vertical graph, it doesn't necessarily paint the greatest picture, but we know we're actually in pretty good shape. Fair?
Through the chair to the mayor, yes, that would be fair.
Okay. And over the last couple of years, you know, with Johnstown and with Cardinal Drainage, and this year with the 13 roads or however many roads we ended up paving, with that commitment, we're actually closing that gap. That's what we promised as a council to do. We are actually closing that gap, right?
Through the chair, that is correct. If we go back to some of the other discussions, more of a financial nature, but if you look at our annual amortization cost, if you're spending more on capital than you're amortizing, you're always growing. So I would say, while there's a ton of information in that asset management plan, a better way to look at it is, are we spending more than our depreciation? Are our assets continuing to grow?
Yep.
And I think that'll allow the deputy mayor to sleep at night.
Sure. And I mean, while we have a responsibility to the corporation as elected officials to direct it, we also have a mandate that the public gave us to achieve. And sometimes the asset management plan doesn't necessarily jive with the elected mandate. And we certainly, you know, have to make sure that we leave ourselves room to achieve mandates, right? I mean, we made promises. For me, it's about promise made, promise kept, without putting the corporation in a bad position. It's managing to find a way so that we can do both. And I think this document reflects that this group's taken it seriously, and we're making those investments. But when I looked at it, I was still a little bit scared. So a couple of things in it for me. So, and you're gonna have to correct me because I was a little confused on it. So is gravel road included and it's included as fair condition, or it's included as poor condition or very poor, or is it included at all?
Through the chair, I believe it is in there and I believe it was fair condition.
Fair condition. Okay. All right. So the red actually indicates the condition of the paved portion of our roads. So they need, like, that number doesn't really lie much.
Through the chair, that is correct. And that's also a well-known issue, is that we were behind on doing repaving and doing that work. So that's why the focus has been on roads for 2024 and will continue to be, because we've closed some of the gaps in those other areas by addressing the plows and also by addressing drainage.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I saw the numbers, I mean, we consistently, and I know we've talked about, replacing vehicles and, making sure that we're not spending more on vehicle maintenance than we are actual vehicles, right? Like, which we've kind of gotten ourselves into that position, and it makes more sense to replace them a little quicker and be a little more aggressive on that so that we don't lose costs there. Those are the smaller, the smaller numbers. The big number, the huge number is the roads, and the roads everyone in the township uses. The other two numbers that I worried about a little bit were water and sanitary, right? Not stormwater, but sanitary. Those numbers as well a little bit, because that shows a lot of red. But then when you flip the other graph over, it seems like we're going in the right direction. They're user pay systems, so the people of Spencerville pay for the sewer, and the people that are connected in Edward or in Cardinal would pay for the water and the sewer portion of that. And there is a suggested increase, much like the 2.6 or the 2.0, of what to do to achieve, to get everything into the place that it would. And if we continue to do it, I don't remember what the numbers were, but it gives you a 15-year option, a 10-year option, a 5-year option, and a 20-year option. By approving this and by voting yes to this, are we voting on the 15-year recommendation for that as well?
Through the chair, no. It is a requirement that we have an asset management plan that is done and approved by council. If we want to change the water rates, that has to be done through a bylaw. And that is scheduled to come forward before the end of the year anyways, as we mentioned earlier in the year, that those rates were going to be looked at across the whole system, which would be Cardinal, water, sewer, and also Spencerville, and also the industrial park.
Okay.
So when those rate approvals come through, we very well may base that off of what's in the asset management plan. But by approving the asset management plan, you're not approving.
In our hands.
No.
Right. Okay. That, I just wanted to be super clear on that, because I wasn't 100% sure if we were by approving the asset management plan, were we approving the recommendations in the asset management plan, because they're outlined, right?
No, through the chair, yes. With the asset management plan, you're approving the asset management plan, so then we're in compliance with the regulation.
Okay. So then this is great. I think we already said that the money that we're using from the port is more like it's getting us to the capital. As long as we continue to invest it in capital, not operations, it's getting us to the number that we need to get to that's suggested in this report.
Through the chair, that is correct.
So it wouldn't necessarily see a new increase on the taxation of 2.6. As long as the revenue that's already there is there, it would meet that requirement.
That is correct.
Okay. Just want to be clear. And okay. So to me, moving forward, longer term, revenue is the key, right? Getting new houses built, getting new industry, making those things, because we can't continue to hit the 7,000 people over and over and over And we're not really doing that in this one, from what I've heard. We're utilizing, an asset that the taxpayer owns in the port to make sure that we keep the rest of the township in good shape. And it seems like that little change that we made is going to make that work. But for future and for long-term, revenue is ultimately key. Am I thinking that that's correct?
That is correct.
And a lot of the times we rely upon those 7,000 people for 2%, 3%, 4% every year to get that revenue. But sometimes, when you bring a giant tiger on board, that makes an enormous, impact to revenue, which, helps turn some of those yellows maybe green, or some of those reds into greens as well. So I'm hopeful that that we see that kind of growth, I think is what I'm suggesting. So growth isn't included in the asset management plan then. Like, we're going to see, 6% growth, 5% growth this year. It's not included as part of the asset management plan.
Through the chair, it does mention growth, but only in a historical context, because this is a snapshot in time. So this is, you're saying as of December 31st, 2023, here's where we are.
So it would have included 2023's growth,
Correct.
or 2022's growth, because we wouldn't know 2023. Okay.
Correct.
And I'm right. I think the last one maybe. Yeah, the last one that I have is, and going back to budget reallocations. So like bridges is one that comes to mind. Like, our bridges are in fantastic shape once we get Rear Road done, right? If we take that snapshot in 2025 and look at the investment that's been made over the last couple of years, and it reflects that, like, our bridges, we're knocking it out of the park with that then.
Through the chair, that is correct. Same with culverts. Culverts are in very good shape as well. So it allows us to allocate some of those government funds through CCBF and OSIF to those other projects that need it, namely roads.
Okay. And that's my last point. And we'll see it later when we talk about the tree fund, the 50% grant to plant trees, right? So looking forward for a lot of these areas, the only way that I see it, short of, adding new houses every year or taxing the 7,000 residents more every year, that we can achieve this, is if we're successful every single year in a major grant. And I'm not sure that we've had the kind of success in those grants. We've had some small ones. We had a forestry one. We had the Red Path for the path grant at the walkway, and we had the large one with finally, after 1 million, I guess it was 9 attempts to get the Highway 2 done, grants. But those grants are going to be hugely important to be able to continue to close this gap up and make it realistic over 10, 20 years. So hopefully, I know this group's mentioned it before, hopefully in the budget, we'll see some sort of a grant writer, or that we can take the pressure off of staff, and maybe there's a grant writer out there that works based on success, the payment based on success. They get $1 million grant, they get the equivalent of 8 or 10%, and that's what we pay them for that. It certainly helps us achieve a lot of our goals, and it's a lot better than having to pay 100% of something. So when it comes to looking forward and ways to make this AMP work, I know staff has their side of it, but we as politicians, we have our side of it to achieve as well, right? And the only way I see us being aggressive and being able to aggressively achieve the mandate that we want to do is being successful in getting some grants. So those are my few points. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate the time that you spent with me, holding my hand, walking me through this entire document, because it was a struggle for me, but because I think we're in really good, the document I thought was a little gloomy in that it didn't feel like we were in as good a shape as we are, but I know through our conversation that we're in much better shape than what I felt it read like. So with that, I guess, sorry for taking so much time, but I think it's a super important document. We're going to use it to guide us over the rest of our term, and I'm assuming the next council will use, the 2025 portion, for the service levels to guide them through, the decisions that they make over the next or the 6 years, I guess, ultimately. So it's important. It's a big document as we move forward. Well, the motion that was brought forward is that municipal, it was an hour ago, that municipal council receives and approves the 2024 asset management plan as presented. It was moved and it was second. Is there further discussion on it? Okay, hearing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? All right. Thank you, council and staff, for your indulgence as we do take this part of the job super seriously. All right. Moving on to item G, Deputy Mayor, appoint police service board representatives.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Council Ward. The municipality council appoint Mayor Tory DeShantz as citizen and a citizen representative, Marina Laker, to represent the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal for the South Grenville County OPP Detachment Board.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Discussion on appointing the two people to the board.
Just to discuss.
No? Okay. Then I will call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. This is one that I really want to sit on, so I appreciate you putting me there. Okay, tree planting partnership funding opportunity. Say that fast, Ways. All right, Councillor Martel.
Both of these? You sure? Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smail, that municipal council support partnering with South Nation Conservation on a funding application under the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund, Growing Canada's Community Canopies, and commit 15,000 per year towards the tree planting project if application is successful. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smail. Whereas the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal is interested in partnering with the South Nation Conservation Authority for funding through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund to support ongoing tree planting projects throughout the township, and whereas the South Nation Conservation Authority is undertaking a tree planting project that would support and align with the township's tree canopy and natural vegetation priority actions. Now therefore be it resolved that the municipal council of the corporation of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal acknowledges that the South Nation Conservation Authority is applying for a funding opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Growing Canada's Community Canopies Initiative for the tree planting project in partnership with the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal, and further that municipal council also recognizes that the lifetime contribution from the Growing Canada's Community Canopies Initiative will not exceed 10 million for tree planting within our municipality, inclusive of a maximum of 1 million for infrastructure activity costs, and that if approved, this project will be counted towards that limit.
10 million in tree planting in Edwardsburg Cardinal. That'd be a
Lot of
big one.
trees.
Okay, just to the clerk, the way that it was read felt like it was two motions. I know I've already nodded at you. It's one motion. I just want to be making sure that I'm procedurally correct, right?
Through the chair, it is actually two motions. The first motion is based on the report prepared by the Deputy CEO, Director of Operations. The short motion where it's indicating the 15,000 per year, that's our commitment. The second motion is a mandatory / required motion that we must submit in order for us to continue with the funding.
So I have two motions on the floor at the same time, and that's not okay.
Through the chair, we'll deal with motion one that's been on the floor at this point in time because it's directly related to the report. and then we'll have to deal with motion 2. They're both motions that coincide with each other. Technically, it's just.
I didn't catch them
They-
quick enough. I thought it was the same motion. Okay, so the short one you want to deal with first.
Preferably, yes.
Okay, all right. With, is council okay with dealing with the first motion that was read first?
Yes.
Everybody nodding their heads. Okay, I'm gonna turn that one over, pretend it wasn't read. Okay, so the municipal council supports partnering with the South Nation Conservation on a funding application under the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund, growing Canada's community canopies, and commit $15,000 per year towards the tree planting project if the application is successful. Okay, everybody understands that's the motion that we're going to discuss first and then vote on? Seeing nods.
Mr. Mayor, how many years? The 15,000?
I believe it's 3. I just looked to staff to make sure. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Further? Good. Further questions? Are you good?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, I mean, I keep going back to the, where we, I hardly would say our township is short on trees. But one thing I wasn't sure, this is going to be trees that are on township property, or can they be on residential property as well? I guess that's a question for this, for the deputy CAO. I'm assuming, but through the chair, you guys decide.
Through the mayor, with this particular program, it's for the township right of ways, public parks, et cetera, not necessarily for private property.
Okay, no, thank you. So that's fine. So, no, I just still wanted that clarity. That's all I needed. Thanks.
I know spoke to mandate earlier. I certainly had it in my book that, from a climate change perspective, planting trees is an important thing, and having a good canopy is a great thing. But after reading through over the weekend, reading through the AMP, I didn't see anything about growing a canopy. And I, there's a lot of trees in Edwardsburg Cardinal, right? There's a lot of protected woodlots in Edwardsburg Cardinal. I'm going to support this. I think we're getting good value as well. I mean, we're getting 50 cents, I think, right, on every dollar. Is that correct? Yeah, it's a doubling. And I think it's a showing that we're doing our part. But I mean, we already are doing a good portion of our part, I think. So, just my comments.
I mean, I guess that's where I was touching on. I think the rules of this are for the funding are probably that it's got to be on our property. But I do think there's something to be thought down the road potentially for helping to support trees on people's properties if they choose to, because it would help to beautify things like in areas like in parts of Cardinal where you see people don't have trees, for instance. It would be nice to be able to look into beautification there, but I'm not sure that's the same kind of funding. So anyways.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, we have every May through South Nation Conservation Authority, we have several thousand trees usually that are available. They're small. They're not the size of what I understand these ones. If I understand this one right, they're 5 centimeter diameter to, so like 1 inch around up to 1.5 inches around, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So like that's a good sized tree. Ultimately, that's not a sapling.
Through the mayor, that's just sort of an example of what we're using through the forestry agreement with South Nation now. So naturally, I guess with the 15,000 or 30,000 a year, you could go for 10 or 15 trees, 40 trees, or probably 500 seedlings, but I think I think that's the flexibility that you'd have with that particular agreement.
Okay, good. You good? All right, and it's a short enough term one. It'll extend 1 year past our mandate. I don't love that it goes that way, but the next council, I suppose, if they at the end of it, maybe they continue it or they don't. So If there are no further comments, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, then we are moving on to item I, which is the memorandum of understanding for. Oh, shit, sorry, shoot, sorry. My apologies for my language. I think that's the first time on microphone that I've ever done it. Normally, nobody ever hears me. Tony, please don't call Tony on that. All right, this is a long one. Does everybody remember what it said?
Can you read it again, Mr.
Would you like me to read it again? Okay. All right, everybody understands what it is then. And so this is, and I'm just looking to the clerk. So, and further that municipal council also recognizes that a lifetime contribution of the blah, 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 not exceed 10 million for tree planting within our municipality, inclusive of a maximum $1 million for infrastructure activity costs. That approved project will, if that and that, if approved, this project will be counted towards that limit. Okay, so everybody understands where we're at. Then I'll call the question on this one. All in favor? Oh, sorry.
I was voting.
Through the chair, so just so I'm clear, this is us, we're basically using part of $1 million that we could potentially draw on, is that right? There's no commitment towards maintaining spending $1 million on trees eventually, right?
The reason for the two motions is through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, they are quite specific on the resolution of council that needs to be presented with that application. So they do note about basically this amount will go towards that million or 10 million dollars, but there is no commitment for us to spend upwards of that amount.
Inclusive of maximum, not minimum.
Sometimes you just got to put it out there.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
it.
Well, you read it well. All right. Anything further? You good? Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. Let's plant some trees. And I apologize again. It's terrible. Normally I don't get caught. That one was 8. All right, so now it's the SNC memorandum of understanding for forestry services. Councillor Smale, you have that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, that the municipal council authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute the MOU with South Nation Conservation for forestry services.
All right, more of a housekeeping item than anything, for a contract that is for the large part been executed already. I think the trees in Johnstown have been cleaned up, and I think the only thing, if I'm not mistaken, through the CAO to the deputy CAO, is the replanting of whatever's left of that portion of the contract.
So through the CAO to the mayor, that is correct. The majority of that project has been completed. To Councillor Ward's part, with this particular grant through Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, there is an opportunity to have some of those trees planted on private property. And for those locations where we removed a large amount of trees in front of the right-of-way at those locations, we've sent out letters for those residents. If they're interested in receiving a tree and having it planted on private property, we will just sign a simple basic agreement to ensure that when that tree reaches maturity and may need to come down, that it's quite clear on whose properties it's located.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. He directed to you first, so I'm going to let you go first.
I appreciate that. I also appreciate the mind reading abilities that went on there. So I have really nothing else to add because that was my question that I had about that. Sorry, I had another question as well, which answered that too, which was, haven't we done most of this work? Because if not, we're way behind schedule per Schedule B on page 225, but it sounds like we're there. So that's good. Thank you very much.
Councillor Smale.
Thank you, Mayor. To the Director of Operations, but been approached to find out, are the tree stumps gonna be removed as well?
So through the mayor, any of the trees that were removed, the tree stumps are to be ground down.
They
So
are?
They are.
Thank you.
All right, so I don't see any further hands, so I'll call the question then. All in favor? Of course you are. Good project. All right. Correspondence, Counselor's Mail.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, that the municipal council receives the correspondence listings for the following dates as previously circulated: September 4th, 2024, September 11th, 2024, September 18th, 2024, and September 25th, 2024.
All right, questions regarding, I'm getting there, I'm doing okay, other than my one mishap. Questions regarding correspondence, anyone? Okay, hearing and seeing nothing, I'll call the question. All in favor? Good, then I believe we're on to disbursements, Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh that municipal council receives the payment of municipal invoices circulated and dated as follows. Report dated August 28th, 2024-142 for $155,382.30. Report dated August 29th, 2024-143 for $220,317.19. Report dated September 13th, 2024-154 for $1,614,373.13. Report dated September 20th, 2024-155 for $194,466.11. And report dated September 23rd, 2024-160 for $373,756.60, for a total of $2,558,295.33.
I sent my question to the treasurer. Thank you.
Or is it one that you want asked publicly as well, or are you happy? with the-
No, I only had 7 of them, so.
It's fantastic that you do them in advance. However, as you know, if there is anything that you feel needs to be discussed in, an open and transparent fashion, you're always welcome to do so. We encourage those. Most of those questions are quick and easy answers. So, Councillor Ward.
And mine's just a statement. I seem to make this every time because in that effort for transparency that, roughly $1 million of this total as well was us transferring funds just to the counties for that portion. So, while it looks bad on paper when you see a big number like that, it's just part of the money that was never really ours to begin with. So that's just wanted to note that.
Spending happens. Nothing. All right, then I'll call the question on disbursements. All in favor? Good, then moving on to the bylaw portion of the night, which would be A, which is 2237 zoning bylaw housekeeping amendment, Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Council Ward that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw, the amended zoning bylaw number 2022-37, being a general amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2022-37. And this shall constitute the first and second thereof.
First and second reading of the housekeeping amendments that were done to our ZBL, all the little changes that needed to be made. Questions, comments before I call the question on first and second? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? You can proceed to third.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Mr. Ward that the bylaw be amended zoning bylaw number 2022-37 being general amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2022-37 be now read a third time. Third and final time and finally passed, signed, sealed, number 2024-50.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Comments, questions before I call the question on third reading? Hearing and seeing none. My only one will always go back to the cost of this to happen. I know that we included an amount in a budget to do that. It seems like a large number for, you know, housekeeping and amendments to the bylaws. I always struggle with spending that and hope that it doesn't have to happen, but it obviously does, and the changes that are being made are warranted and good. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. Steve, your mic's still on. I want you to do what I did. Okay, so amend bylaw 2022-71, Committee of the Whole, Community Development, Terms of Reference. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to amend 2022-71 to establish terms of reference for committees of council, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof. There we go.
Thank you. First and second reading. Comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, then I'll call the question on first and second reading. All in favor? Okay, proceed to third.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded again by Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh that a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-71 to establish terms of reference for committees of council be now read a third and final time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2024-51.
Sir, comments, questions? I'm gonna just look to staff real quick. Can you highlight the changes that are made on this so that I have a firm understanding of exactly what we're doing?
Through the chair, the only change that was made was almost towards the bottom of the summary, where we are delegating to the committee of the whole for CDC, delegated authority, directing them to make comment to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville Consent Granting Authority for consent severance applications.
Correct, right? So to speed up process, and we did, yeah, because it can always come back if it has to, but this helps get things in on time and speeds things up, which we know this group strongly supports. And I somehow managed to miss that one, and I ended up at the ad hoc one, and I thought the ad hoc one was actually that one. So I apologize for that. So further comments or questions from anyone else? Seeing none, then I'll call the question on third reading. All in favor? Good. Good. All right. So here we go. Ad hoc Communications Committee Terms of Reference. Councillor Martel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smail, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to establish terms of reference for an ad hoc communications committee, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
All right, first and second reading on creation and terms of reference for the Communications Committee. Fantastic. Comments, questions before I call the question? Nope. All right.
I think this is something that we've been talking about for a while now, and I'm really glad to see this brought forward because I do think it's an important thing. I mean, we struggle all the time with communication on our own, and so I think establishing this committee will help us to build the tools we need as a township to make sure we're getting the word out. And so I applaud Councillor Martel for bringing this forward to us because I do think it's something that's very much needed, and I hope to be a part of it eventually as well. So thank you very much.
266. I'm struggling keeping up too. 266, 268, somewhere in there. All right. Further comments and questions on first and second reading? Hearing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, proceed to third.
Moved by myself, seconded by Waddy Smale, that a bylaw to establish terms of reference for an ad hoc communications committee be now read a third and final time. And finally, pass, sealed, and numbers 2024-52.
All right. Third reading on the terms of reference and establishing the committee, or the terms of reference. Questions, comments? You've already made yours. Anybody else? No. I will. This one, I know for this group, certainly as an elected body, this one was enormous, as we've talked about the decline of print media and getting the message out from the township and trying to find ways to connect with the community that we're elected to represent. And it is a bit of a struggle to make sure that we do connect with them and find ways that work for them as well as us. And I hope through this that we'll come up with some creative ideas and find a way to better do that. So with those words, I will call the question. All in favor? Good. Well done. All right, so we are on to the Memorandum of Understanding for Forestry Services. Councilor Smale, you have that.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, that the mover be granted to leave, pardon me, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a memorandum and understanding of the South Nation River Conservation Authority for the Forest Services, and this shall constitute the first and second reading, therefore.
All right, comments or discussion on the MOU for South Nation? Yes.
So with regards to this one, it's a partnership. As far as the operationalization of this goes, let's just say it like that. So once we sign this, are we involved as well in the daily conversations or the whatever regular conversations of what's going on in there? Or is it just a means to allow SNC to sort of take care of it for us? I'm just a little unclear about that, and I'm hoping it's the former as opposed to the latter, to be honest. So.
Thank you, Mr. CAO, and through the mayor. So with respect to this forestry services agreement, this basically South Nation's contribution to it is to complete the tree assessments and coordinate the tree planting. The township coordinated tendering out the tree removals and oversight with respect to those removals. So, and this basically is a flow through. Those expenses will be invoiced to Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry for recompensation.
Good. It basically is the the work that's already been done, right? That we were talking about earlier, and the bylaw that we put in place to do that, right? Okay. So then, is this first and second or third? I missed. Okay. So I'll call. Any discussion further? Okay, I'll call the question first and second. All in favor? Proceed to third.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a memorandum of understanding with the South Nation River Conservation Authority for Forest Services be now read a third and final time, passed, signed, sealed, and number 2024-53.
Excellent. Further discussion at all? Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. Item E13E, which is body worn camera. Councillor Martell, you have that item.
Thank you, your worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smale, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to adopt a body worn camera policy, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay. First and second reading, comments, questions?
Through the chair to the CAO, I don't know if this is feasible, but once that's up and moving, it would really be cool to see an example of it, to see like an actual visit with the body camera on. No. Not even if it's at my place?
I think as an important part of that is that the recording is confidential and it is only used when there are specific criteria met to protect the identity of any individual that's in the videos, regardless of, you know, maybe there can be a demonstration set up that isn't an official one. You know, maybe we can find a way to get there, but from an official standpoint, I don't see any way that that works. Councillor Smell.
Pardon me. Through the mayor to the clerk, this camera, will the bylaw officer be able to use that in court if he has to go to court? Like, will it, if he takes pictures or the camera shows he's at a person's yard or something, does it show the date? Later, do you know any of this?
Through the chair, yes, we do have mechanisms built into the policy as well as through MFIPA that do allow us to provide documentation to the court, whether it be requested on us. That would be somewhere we'd have to discuss with our legal, depending on the situation, but it does timestamp it, date it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Further, first and second. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Can proceed to third. I think that was unanimous.
Thank you, your worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smale, that a bylaw to adopt a body worn camera policy now be read a third and final time, passed, signed, sealed and numbered 2024-52.
Okay, further discussion before I call the question on third reading. Anyone? Okay, I do, and it's two comments. So one would be a question to staff. We have an electronic bylaw. I don't want to call it surveillance, but correct my words for me, someone. An electronic recording policy, or there's an electronic policy
Through the
like
chair, electronic monitoring policy.
monitoring policy. Does this addition of this body worn camera, it's obviously going to pass, does this addition cause a need to update that policy as well? And has, you know, staff thought of that? I mean, when the bylaw officer is wearing it, it's going to be recording his position and words that he says and all that. I don't know that that's written into that bylaw without it in front of me, but I'm just wondering if we need to update that.
Through the chair, not at the moment. They don't really conflict. One is dedicated solely to the body worn camera for our bylaw enforcement officer. The other surveillance policy is in regards to cameras that are in our facilities. Down the road, we may need to look at incorporating additional sections within that older policy for MFIPA. But otherwise, right now, they don't really conflict and they shouldn't have an issue.
Okay, I thought the other ones were partially with the GPS as well for the plow trucks, so that we knew where plow trucks were at any specific time.
Through the chair, that may potentially come about. I haven't reviewed that one recently in regards to requests for information or setting it into court, but that would again be through court order if needed. But that would be something we'd have to investigate further.
Okay, my concern's more whether we need to update that policy so that it reflects that the bylaw officer is wearing this. And lastly, I just hate that we live in a world that a bylaw officer gets treated so poorly or disrespectfully from people when he's just trying to do a job. I hope that our employee exercises such caution that he never, or the person, not he, the person who occupies that position uses such great discretion and understands and never puts themselves in harm's way where they feel that this camera is needed. I hope that this camera really only ever gets used when something by surprise. I know that they go into situations where they have to have OPP helping them. I think that's terrible that that's the case. I know that it is, and it's a reality that we live in. But I struggle to think And I really do struggle to think that we live in a society where somebody who's coming to tell you your grass needs to be cut has to wear a camera. I struggle to think that, being good neighbors and being good residents, we need to do better as people. And I think that having to put this policy, I'm going to vote for it, but I so struggle to think that we need a policy like this. So. And with those comments for third reading, unless somebody else wants to weigh in, I don't think so. I'll call the question then. All in favor. I will put my hand up to make it unanimous. Okay. We're getting there. Okay, CAO's administrative update. Councillor Ward, you have that one tonight.
Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh that Municipal Council receives the CAO's administrative report as presented.
Motion's been moved and seconded. CAO, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just go through the administrative report for September. First off is under proclamations. We have 3 proclamations that have been prepared and shared on social media. One is Rail Safety Week, September 23rd to 29th. Obviously, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, which is today, and then Fire Prevention Week, which is October 6th to 12th. For Citizen of the Year Awards, ads and information will be circulated in the newspaper website and social media. For the opening of submissions for the Youth and Regular Citizen of the Year Award nominations, the deadline to submit will be November 20th. Moving on to Treasury, with ADP, we're pretty much complete on the implementation of the payroll system. We're just waiting to sign off on the project, and then we will transition to regular support for any other issues going forward. For FMW, the capital plan is being worked on through the test environment, and training is being provided on this module. Training is scheduled for department managers for the end of October on how to input operating budgets, execute budget reports, and go over capital budget entry and capital budget reports. Moving on to facilities and recreation. For Spencerville Fair, the fair executives were extremely pleased with the support and help from the rec department throughout the week. Cleanup and with assistance from Public Works went well on the Monday as well. For Spencerville Arena, staff did an excellent job getting arena prepped for after the fair. Ice installation went smoothly and the arena opened on September 26th. For new staff, John Henderson started last week as our newest facilities operator. John will continue his training over the next couple of weeks and be stationed out of the Spencerville Arena this winter. As far as the Spencerville Arena canteen, with this arena primarily used as a practice facility for the associations, we've installed a vending machine in the lobby for this winter instead of operating our canteen. Moving on to Public Works, the Weir Road Bridge work is progressing. Contractor is behind schedule due to weather-related delays, and the contractor has transitioned to the west side of the bridge for completion. For the Jordan Road triple culvert replacement, it has been completed the location, and the guide rail installation is 90% of completion. For the roads program, Reed Street subcontractor completed installation of water service lines. Roadway set to begin excavation of gravel and soil material in roadbed and apply granular material to roadbed surface for preparation of asphalt reinstatement. Cedar Grove Road, asphalt reinstatement and shouldering completed and paving markings completed. Armstrong Road, same update. Edison Ave, asphalt resurfacing and shouldering is completed. Riverview Crescent, catch basin and pipe system insulation has been completed. In New Wexford, the asphalt reinstatement is completed on roadways. Topsoil and shouldering are yet to be completed to date. On 5th Street, was added to the tender and will be completed. Sutton Drive to be completed as well. Public Works will assist Tackleberry Construction with excavation of unsettling material on Kiefer Street, and the remaining roads are scheduled for October. For the Road Patrol app, staff is working with Citywide to link road segment assets and create additional road assets near completion. The trial runs are being conducted and are near completion, system operational for the upcoming winter season. For community events, Public Works supplied units to Touch a Truck event at the Spencerville Fair. For environmental services with the Cardinal Water plant, all of the annual inspections have occurred. It did detect microcystin in the water sample. Algal bloom sampling initiated as per requirement and drinking water permit. Notifications to Health Unit, MECP, and Spills Action Center completed. We also had an inspection from MECP and no non-compliances and or best management practices identified. That will be the same for the industrial water park system as far as received MEC detailed inspection report, no non-compliances or best management practices identified. For municipal drains, for County Road 2 for the Newport Drain, Phase 2 of this project is set to begin on September 30th. All work is contained within the county right of way and includes the replacement of the cement box culvert. For the Branch 2 JRDR drain, staff met with the drainage superintendent on next steps. For fire department, for training, we have 4 firefighters registered for the NFPA 1021 Officer 1 at the Clarence Rockland Regional Training Center. For fire prevention, Spencerville Fair Display was well attended throughout the weekend. Over 200 fire safety packages were distributed. September 28th was Saved by the Beep to test for smoke alarm day. The fire department was in Spencerville from 10 to 11 near County Road 21 and 44 intersection, and Cardinal from 1 to 2 near Home Hardware for community engagement. On the facility side for fire department, CKI architects are working on preliminary layouts for Station 2. Anticipate meeting with Station 2 committee in the near future. For emergency management, the ERP review and exercise, staff are working on scheduling a couple of dates in October to complete these items. And that concludes my CAO's report.
Sorry, thank you, CAO. I'll just look for hands quickly. Does anyone have questions of the CAO on his update? Seeing none on my right. Deputy Mayor, fire away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of park staff. Continue at the parks, which has been very busy, warmer weather. Hope we keep our keep it going until, you know, we get some frost. I see in the 2-week period here, October 14th, the lowest it's going to get is 9. So I hope we keep the swings in and swings and bathrooms open down there at the park and the docks in. Second of all, the arena canteen. That was a shocker for me just because it's a vending machine, you know, it's a practice facility, you're calling it. I really think we should try to get that open. I've heard lots of comments of why are we closing it. So even if we can't get our own staff, maybe we should look at seeing if somebody wants to take it on. That's my 2 concerns, biggest concerns on this. Thank you. Can I have some comments back on that from maybe Mr. Spencer?
Certainly through the chair to the deputy mayor. Comment number 1 regarding the canteen. It has nothing to do with not being able to have the staffing to open it. It has to do with the revenue that comes in as opposed to the expenses that go out to operate it. By far, the Cardinal rink far exceeds on revenue and for the canteen. On any given night over here, if it's just practices, you might hit between $60 to $120 where you're paying $80 in wages. So there definitely, I mean, the canteens don't make money to begin with, but the Spencerville Arena definitely loses money over and above the Cardinal one. And primarily it is 80 to 85% of the events that are there are practices. There are maybe 1 to 3 Kings games there in a month. And South Carolina Minor Hockey do play the odd game on Friday nights there, but that's it. So we decided to go this year with the trial of the vending machine to see how that fares out. So far, we've been open for a total of 7 nights, and there has not been any complaints to staff as to why the canteen has not been open.
Well, obviously they're not around local because I've been getting it left, center, and right, and I think we went through that discussion with down at the parks with our canteen. We know we don't make money, but we are hiring young kids that live in our community. And for me to sit here and say, well, we don't make money. We don't make money in any of the arenas, both arenas. It doesn't matter if it's Cardinal or Spencerville. And for, you know, if they take in $60 and it costs us 80, so we lose $20, we're still employing local kids. So that's my thoughts on that. And I just don't want to see it close. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Spencer. In the second part, we're going to leave our docks in as long as we can, and the swing sets in.
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, yes, as long as the weather stays good. Grass cutting continues when I have the staff available, as they've all gone back into the arenas. But a day like today, I had 4 machines out cutting grass, so we are keeping up that. The swing sets and the washrooms will remain open provided the weather stays warm. So as you indicated, yes, I do check the weather as well, and we're looking at least a good 3 weeks left, maybe 4 weeks before we close the washrooms. The docks will come out either the last week of October or the first week of November, and again, that'll be weather dependent.
Thank you.
No, I did have something actually. So yeah, I see the deadline to submit for Citizen of the Year awards is November 20th. So that's about 7 weeks away from now. Has that been posted on the website yet? And in the Facebook and everything else? Or I know it says it's coming soon. I'm just not sure when that is.
Through the chair, it'll be coming through this week.
And I did want to echo, by the way, the Spencerville Fair, they reached out to me as well for various people, and they were quite happy with the service. So again, thanks to staff for doing that, because it really does help community, and it's really showing that you know, it's helping them where they have a bit of a volunteer shortage at times, and it's helping to get everything back to normal right away, and they really appreciate the help. So just I know they said it to you as well, but they also said it through me, and I figured I should also mention it here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. To the Recreation Director. The vending machines you got in there, do we rent them and do we get a profit from them or?
Through the chair to Councillor Smale, yes, we have the Coke machine is ours. So the product that we put in, and we get the full profit off of that. The vending machine that is there now is from a vending company. We get 10% of the proceeds out of it.
Pardon me, I still side with Mr. LeBall about keeping a student in there in the canteen over. Like, it was a shock to me. I didn't realize it was closed, but I don't know. I just feel that it's always been open, and heartbreaking when you go in the rink and can't go to the canteen. So.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Councillor Smale and the deputy mayor have said, that the rink probably, I haven't been over, but it probably doesn't feel the same without the canteen being open.
Okay. I'm getting the feeling that the CAO will have that on for a discussion item for the CDC meeting on next Tuesday night. Or, yeah, it's next Tuesday night, isn't it? Yeah, I think. Okay. And I don't have any questions. So I've got a mayor's report tonight. So
Monday next week, not Tuesday. Next Monday, not Tuesday.
is it next Monday?
The following Tuesday, Thanksgiving. I mean, you can come next Tuesday.
I thought we decided that we were having no meetings on Thanksgiving Monday night, but I'll leave it at that. All right, let me get out of this CAO's discussion. Further questions? No. All in favor? Yes. Everybody? There we go. Okay. Inquiries and notice of motion.
I have just one.
Don't let me down, guys.
Thank you. I have one, just an inquiry. I've been getting calls that we took our flowers down too. I know it doesn't mean a lot, but we do pay a lot of money for them. And again, with the weather being so nice, I don't know why we just wouldn't leave them till the first frost and then remove them, because they look so beautiful, especially here on the bridge. I was getting comments all year on them. So I'm kind of disappointed on that. Thanks.
Was there an inquiry or just comment?
No.
Just comment. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Well, I just have one. I had some guests this weekend at my house, and they each came different way. Two came different ways, if you will. And we had some conversation earlier today about the population of the township being 7,500 in 2022, I think it was, that I saw there. And I don't think any of our signs coming into the township reflect that, but I could be wrong. This is the kind of conversation they had where we had a discussion. I said, no, it's more than that. They said, not according to your sign. So if we could look into that and see if we can get that right number on there at some point. It's not a rush, obviously, but I just think it helps to make sure we have that uniformity there.
Further, anyone?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, to the Director of Operations. Just wondering, do we still maintain like when you go into Pittston or Brownsville, the signs? Do we do them, or do we contract that out? The reason I'm asking is one in Brownsville been broke for like a month, and I'm just wondering why we didn't replace it if we do it.
Through the mayor, with it being on a county road, we have asked the county to replace that, as we feel that it may very well have been the roadside mowing that may have nicked that post. However, if it's not replaced within the next week or so, we will go ahead and replace it.
Thank you.
That something that we can, you got a picture of it. Is that not something that we could just replace and then send them the invoice for?
Through the mayor, we will look into having that replaced.
Okay, I got an interesting thing, and I'd like to have a discussion if you hear me out on this. And I don't know whether it's community development or whether it's council, or I don't know where it is. So staff will have to guide me. But I recently was able to attend another municipality's council meeting. Watched it in its entirety, and it was yeah, I was bored. And it was fantastic to watch it. But at this point where we're about to go to, which is mayor's report, it wasn't mayor's report, it was members' report. And I found it really interesting because this council is a very active council. I know the deputy mayor does more than I do, but he doesn't have a report where he gets to say all of the things that he does. And I struggle with that sometimes, because he certainly should be, and the community should be well aware of the things that all this group does. I know, Chris does SBCC and does a lot of stuff, helping out. And I'm not really sure, how much the other council members do. And I'd really like to hear the things that they're involved in. So I guess the inquiry, or maybe the notice of motion, is that I'd like to see this agenda amended so that there's a discussion about changing the mayor's report to members' report at the council meeting, so that everybody gets the opportunity to say the good things that they've done over the last month. Okay, that's my inquiry. And so there's no motion for any of this. We're moving on to mayor's report, correct? Okay. Members report. All right. So it's certainly been and I will ask the deputy mayor to speak as well as part of the mayor's report and say some of the things that he's done. But certainly for myself, it was an absolute crazy busy month in September. Outside of the United Counties, the 5 United Counties meetings, Being part of the health unit board, there's 2 more meetings there. We continue, I think it's important for this group to know that the health unit continues to move forward on an amalgamation process that will join 3 health unit boards or 3 health units together in an attempt to make not savings on costs, but actually have the ability to service all of our areas better with having more inspectors on the ground, being able to respond to situations faster. From a service level, it seems to make some sense. So just think everybody should be aware of that. We certainly pay for it. So I do have, and I'll echo, you know, it was in the CAO's report. Congrats to, and Chris, you've said something already. The Spencerville Fair, you know, was another fantastic year marked with, in my mind, it was a fantastic and wonderful opening. And I think I love the return of Robertson Amusements. I just thought, you know, it was great to see not only how great and busy the fairground was, but how busy all of Spencerville was. Thank you to our staff for the work that they did in the month of September, Mike, especially your crew. You know, with Labor Day, the fair, trying to get the rinks open and ready for skating. You know, cutting the grass. It's an unusually warm September with after following an unusually wet August, right? So things are still growing more than what they usually do. And I know that's pressure on a staff that maybe isn't you know, fully manned, right? Like, I think now you're getting the numbers of staff up to where they should be, but I think losing the students and struggling to do some of that work. So well done to all the rec team. So please pass that those words along. I think on a sad but potentially positive or optimistic note, you know, over the last couple of days, received word that the Odd Spot here in Spencerville is going to be going up for sale as a business and building. And, you know, I just wanted to say it on the record in case there's people that watch this. You know, there are potential investors out there that are looking for a fantastic building and business opportunity for them to have them contact the owners. I know Marquis and Amy have made a very positive impact here in the village of Spencerville. They're, you know, big with SBCC, and you know, they certainly made a commitment to our town, and I wish them all the best. CAO and myself attended the Prescott Water meeting and wastewater meeting. The system continues to operate and perform as it should for our residents in the industrial park. And it looks, if I'm going to jinx them by saying this, but it looks like if all goes well, they're going to, you know, see a tiny little surplus at the end of the year. Good news is your phone might stop ringing slightly, a tiny little bit. Hyman Road Bridge is now partially open. Hopefully, you know, with this weather, they're doing that, you know, the fiber reinforcement underneath it, and the weather is really key to making sure that that it does the job that it's supposed to do. And this weather like this is fantastic to help them gain some momentum and get that completion back on track. So hopefully that'll go. CAO and I attended a meeting with the school board, with the CFO of the school board. And it was at that meeting that we were 100% assured that the boundaries of South Ed and Centennial schools will remain the same, and that there would be no negative impacts to either South Ed or Centennial should a new school open in the Augusta Township. And in fact, there is continued investment scheduled for our schools, and they will continue to do that as our township grows. So we received that commitment, I would say, I think is fair to say, from the CFO and from the board when we had that meeting. So good news on that front. Yeah, it's taken too long. I think there's a really important one that I'd like everyone to watch. The deputy mayor doesn't know, but he'll be doing this October 8th meeting for me as I have surgery scheduled for that day. But there's going to be, and I know this one matters to all of us, it's going to be a delegation at the United Counties from Sherry Hudson and George Smitherman on professional recruitment for what's called the READY program. The St. Lawrence Economic Development Corridor has been working for quite a while to find ways to work to draw in healthcare professionals. And the READY program came forward from the province. We've been working with Sherry and George for quite a while. George is a former health minister. Yeah, Liberal health minister. He's working in a nonpartisan fashion. George is fantastic. Can't say enough about him and Sherry. They're wonderful. So the program, should we be successful in it, a pilot project for Leeds and Grenville, not just Edwardsburg Cardinal, but all of Leeds and Grenville. This project will see, it'll be announced whether we're the successful January 1st. The application's already in. Couldn't talk about it until now. We'll see up to 200 professionals from abroad, mostly healthcare, doctors, nurses, PSWs, potentially other engineers. I know most of the major industries that I talk to, they're short engineers and they're struggling to find them. They will be part of the READY program. So it'll fast track immigration for, I think there's 6 Commonwealth countries that do the same healthcare education as we do in Canada, and they'll fast track their ability to be working directly in their field. That way you don't have a doctor driving your Uber when you go to Toronto. So the focus, I think, with Sherry and George is mostly going to be South Africa due to the ongoing relationships that we've already had and the success that we've had in the past, the lack of language barriers and the consistency and the quality of the South African education system. So basically they're going to be able to jump right into our system and fill the holes. So if it goes well, we could see 200 people coming to Leeds and Grenville. So while it may not mean a doctor locates here in Edwardsburg Cardinal, it may mean that the lineups at our ER will be shorter, or that we have family doctors within the next year in our area, and a lot of them. I mean, they're with the program, they're going to be staying rural. So that's good news. I think that's really excellent news, especially as we look to open Mapleview Lodge and have nowhere near enough PSWs as we work to open that facility, right? I mean, it's short a lot of people, and they don't get paid unless they have people in the beds. So hard to pay the bills with no people in beds. Quick congrats to our municipality neighbor, Elizabethtown Kitley, for being nominated also as being one of the best managed small townships by Business View magazine. I think all of you recall earlier this month that we announced the hiring of our new port general manager, who also was the CAO of that township and a huge part in that success. So we know that she's going to bring that kind of commitment that helped them get that recognition and success to the leadership at the port. So that's great. Rail Week just ended. There's going to be a proclamation for upcoming Fire Week. I noticed that there's another one sitting here on the desk for cadets as well. And I wanted to comment and say, I certainly noticed the fire team been out and about a lot over the last little bit at the fair. I can't remember what the name of the beep was, but I had that noted as well, that the team was out doing that as well. So, and I think that's it. If anyone has any questions for me on any of that, I know that's a long one and I usually don't do one, but it was a crazy busy month, and there's a lot of really good stuff going on. And I can actually talk about a little bit of it right now. So, if anybody has any questions, that's great. If not, that's great too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and second by Mr. Ward. Municipality Council receives the mayor's report as presented. Thank you very much.
Great. So now I have to do it twice because I didn't have it on the floor first. Just kidding. Deputy Mayor, I do want to give you the opportunity. I know you attended the plowing match on my behalf. You attend so many events on my behalf. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to speak to them if you want to.
Well, nothing much. Spencerville Fair, like we said, we had a great success. People coming back from us saying that our recreation staff did very well. And they did. I was watching them. I mean, it was amazing how they kept the garbage, in line and clean, and the bathrooms cleaned, and it was just great to see. We also had our first porch party in the village of Johnstown, which means that they had 10 houses and 10 different bands played at these houses, and it was really, really successful. And I really enjoyed it. I just walked from home and walked from house to house, and it was really cool. And Mr. Martell came up with an idea that we should maybe close off the little street at the school next year, and get some people in there to sell stuff and so on. So it's just an excellent opportunity. It was a lot of fun and very, very successful. Very, very successful. And adding to that, with this ad hoc committee you guys who are forming, please get us some signs that are digital in Cardinal at the corner of Johnstown 16 and 1 here in Spencerville. Please, I beg you. Every time I go to Maynard or Spencerville or Maynard or North Augusta, first thing I do is look at their signs. It's just an instinct, and we can get so much advertising out there. Like, we didn't have any advertisement for the porch at that corner. If we had a sign there, I'm sure you would have doubled, just little things like that. So, and yes, I did go to the plow match for you, Mr. Mayor. Grenville plow match, very nice. First time I ever plowed. Didn't do very well. Came in fifth out of 7, but I will do better next year for sure. I'm out practicing now, so that's my report too.
I was gonna say 7th and 5.
Well, that might have been the case. I say this often, Steve. I know when we decided to run again this term, we knew that it was going to be this way, and that you would attend as many things as I did. And I can't say thank you enough for the work that you do for this council and for our township. You do a fantastic job. All right, so mayor and deputies mayor report as presented. I'll call the question. All in favor? Of course. All right, and I have no idea where that leaves us. Question period. There's nobody here, so clerk, no. So we're going to go into closed session. Councillor Ward, you have that motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor. Wow. I was doing so well
Go ahead,
until
keep
this.
going.
Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh, that Municipal Council proceeds into closed session at 9:02 p.m. in order to address a matter pertaining to Section 239 2B, personal matters about an identifiable, including municipal or local board employees, specifically approved minutes of closed session dated August 26, 2024, and B, 239 2D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically union negotiations.
Good. All right, call the question then on going into closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. We are, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll start closed session.